Hello everybody and welcome back to the football betting series here on YouTube Premier League edition. It was a very mixed week last time around, and if you followed me on just the Premier League picks you would have done quite well. 2 wins and a push for a £61 profit. However, on the continent things didn't go to plan. I lost all 3 picks there for a total loss of £100. So if like me you did all 6 picks from last week's episode, unfortunately you would have lost £39, so I'm sorry about that. This does mean that our November record now stands at 6 wins, 5 defeats with 2 pushes, and a monthly loss of £16.28. When we take that away from the previous month's data, our record for the series stands at 45 wins, 17 losses and 6 pushes, and a total series profit of £478.45. In an effort to recapture our form, I'm binning off the continental picks for this week and we're going full steam ahead on the Premier League. I've got 4 picks in today's episode, so let's not waste any more time and get right into it. Our first pick sees 17th place Burnley playing host to 3rd place Chelsea, and Burnley, they were bested in their last game against West Ham. Things got off to an okay start for Scott Parker's side as Ian Fleming opened the scoring with his header after 35 minutes, and Burnley almost secured this lead going into the half-time break, but Callum Wilson had other ideas. The Englishman nodded home from Somerville's deflected shot to restore parity going into the interval. The Irons would then hit the front in the second period when Tomáš Souček scored following Paqueta's shot being saved by Dubravka. The Czech midfielder was left with an open goal at the back post and he tucked away with ease. And then later in the match, West Ham would double their advantage thanks to Kyle Walker-Peters. Once again, Dubravka couldn't hold a shot as he spilled it right into the path of the on-rushing fullback for West Ham's 3rd of the game. Josh Cullen managed to score for Burnley in the 97th minute, but it was a case of too little too late. The final score 3-2 to West Ham. In terms of form, this loss for Burnley means it is back-to-back defeats in the Premier League, following what was 2 wins in a row to lift them out of the relegation zone. Right now, goal difference is the only thing separating them and West Ham, and the Clarets run a real risk of dropping back into the bottom 3 with a poor result in today's game. They host a Chelsea side who probably would have been saddened to see the international break come around after their win against Wolves in their last match. A goalless first half sprang into life in the second period as Gusto, João Pedro and Pedro Neto managed to score in a 22-minute span to kill the game. 3-0 the final score to Chelsea. When we take a look at the stats, we can see that Chelsea were the deserved winners of this match. Their chances combined for 3.31 XG, which was around 19 times greater than their visitors. They also held Wolves to just 35% of the ball and just 3 efforts on goal. In terms of form, that win makes it back-to-back victories for Chelsea. They've also won 4 of their last 5 Premier League encounters. When we take a look at the head-to-head records, the last match between these sides took place in March of 2024. Despite Chelsea dominating the game, it was Burnley that managed to keep pace. Cole Palmer scored twice to give Chelsea a lead on both times. However, they were pegged back by instant replies thanks to Josh Cullen and Dara O'Shea. During the match, Chelsea were ahead for a combined total of 6 minutes, with the final scores ending 2-2. Longer term, that draw for Burnley did prevent Chelsea from adding to their 2-game winning streak. However, Chelsea are unbeaten against Burnley in each of their last 11 Premier League games. My prediction for today's game is that there is no doubt that Chelsea come into this match the clear favourite in basically every category. They hold the better form and are man for man the stronger side. If it wasn't for the international break in the schedule, I'd be all over Chelsea to win for a full stake. But in light of the disruption to the momentum that international football can cause, and the fact that this is the early kickoff on the Saturday following the international break, I will still back Chelsea, but only for a half stake here in bet number 1. Our second pick sees 11th place Brighton playing host to 12th place Brentford, and Brighton, they played Crystal Palace in the M23 derby, which finished goalless. A game devoid of any real goalmouth action as both sides only combined for 1.14 XG, so perhaps a goalless draw was the correct result in this one. In terms of form, that draw now means that Brighton have won 1, lost 1 and drawn 1 in their last 3 Premier League games. However, they have only lost 1 of their last 7 Premier League matchups. They host a Brentford side who went into the break in great spirits following their win against Newcastle. Harvey Barnes got things going for the Toon, and the visitors were ahead at the break, but from here on out it was all Brentford, as evidenced by the second half numbers. Kevin Schade levelled the scoring in the 56th minute, and Igor Thiago's brace killed off the game as he scored in the 78th and then 95th minute to secure a solid win for the Bees. In terms of form, that victory now means it's 3 wins in the last 4 for Brentford. When we take a look at the head-to-head record, the last match between these sides took place in April at the G-Tech. The Bees were ahead after just 9 minutes and they didn't really look back from here. Wisa scored, Norgard scored, and Mbeumo's brace saw Brentford pick up a 4-2 win. This victory did extend Brentford's unbeaten streak to 3 on the bounce now. My prediction for today's game is that this match involves two sides who are around about mid-table, and that's where I expect them to be come the end of the season. The form is also a bit mixed from both sides, with Brighton coming to this game with 1 win, 1 draw and 1 defeat in their last 3, but they are unbeaten in their last 9 home games. Brentford have won 3 of the last 4 Premier League games, but away from home they've lost 4 of the last 5, so once again very mixed form. I really do enjoy watching both of these sides as a neutral, and I feel they're pretty reliable for goals here, so I'm going to be looking at over 2.5 goals. Brighton have seen over 2.5 goals in 3 of their last 4 Premier League games, as well as in each of their last 4 matches at home. Whereas Brentford, they've seen over 2.5 goals in 2 of their last 3 Premier League games. However, away from home, this mark hasn't been reached in their last 2 matches, but it has been reached in 3 of the last 5 road games. When we take a look at the head-to-head record, just 1 of the last 3 matches have seen over 2.5 goals scored, but when we filter for the games played at the Amex, we can see this mark has been reached in 2 of the last 3 games. All things considered, I do think these sides have goals in them, but with the mixed data here and the break in momentum due to the international break, I will still back over 2.5 goals, but for just a half stake here in bet number 2. Our third pick sees 20th place and bottom of the table Wolverhampton Wanderers playing host to 10th place Crystal Palace. And Wolves, they tasted defeat once again in their last match against Chelsea. Wolves did manage to hold out in the first period, but pressure told in the second half as Chelsea scored 3 goals in a 20-minute span, with goals from Neto, João Pedro and Malo Gusto to kill off the game. In terms of form, it's now 4 losses on the bounce for Wolves, and they're still winless across their 11 games in the Premier League so far this season. They do seem one of the favourites for relegation at this point, and since last video, Wolves have now appointed former Luton and Middlesbrough boss Rob Edwards. Whether or not he'll be able to keep Wolverhampton up is yet to be seen, but I'm not very optimistic. They host a Crystal Palace side who shared the spoils in their last match against Brighton. By taking a look at the raw numbers, Crystal Palace may argue a case for deserving a goal in the game, but in truth, whilst they did create more than Brighton, they did produce less than 1 XG, so perhaps a goalless draw was the fitting result. In terms of form, it's 1 win, 1 draw and 1 defeat over the last 3 for the Eagles, and 1 win in their last 5 is a bit worrisome for Glasner, and perhaps the international break came at the right time for Crystal Palace. When we take a look at the head-to-head records, the last match between these sides finished 4-2 to Crystal Palace. Despite Wolves getting the lead, after just 24 minutes they did fall behind going into the half-time break thanks to an Nketiah brace. Ben Chilwell and Eze then scored the 3rd and 4th for Palace in what was a convincing win. This victory for Crystal Palace did extend an unbeaten run for 4 games in a row now. The last time Wolves picked up 3 points was back in April of 2023, when Ruben Neves and a Joachim Andersen own goal handed Wolves a 2-0 win. My prediction for today's game is that Wolves are bad. And that's pretty obvious based on their league position, but there are some other stats I came across on SofaScore. For example, they've scored the fewest goals with 7. They've conceded the most with 25 or 2.27 goals per game. They've created the fewest big chances with just 9 across their 11 games. And they've taken the second fewest shots in these matches with just 9.5. This selection is more of an anti-Wolves pick than a pro-Crystal Palace selection, but in light of Crystal Palace's solid head-to-head record, I am tempted to go with them. But instead of backing them outright, I'm going to be laying Wolverhampton here for a full stake in bet number 3. Our fourth and final selection in today's episode sees 14th place Newcastle playing host to 2nd place Manchester City. And Newcastle, they were well beaten in their last match against Brentford. Whilst Harvey Barnes scored to put the Toon ahead in the first half, they really fell away in the second period. Kevin Schade scored the equaliser, with Igor Thiago's brace killing off the game, 3-1. In terms of form, it's now back-to-back 3-1 losses for Newcastle, where they've surrendered, and in both games they surrendered a lead and fell apart in the second period. Slightly longer term, they've lost 3 of their last 4 matches straight up. They host a Manchester City side who put Liverpool to the sword in their last game. Haaland opened the scoring after just 29 minutes, which atoned for his penalty miss earlier in the match. Nico Gonzalez doubled the advantage going into the half-time break, and then man of the match Doku twisted the knife to score his goal and make it 3-0. When we take a look at the numbers, Manchester City did create a higher quality of chances, but considering the XG for the missed penalty, perhaps Liverpool weren't as thoroughly outclassed as the scoreline would indicate. Nevertheless, it's 3 points for Manchester City, who are snapping at the heels of Arsenal in 2nd place. In terms of form, it's back-to-back wins for the Citizens, and they've also won 5 of their last 6 Premier League games. When we take a look at the head-to-head records, the last match between these sides took place in February earlier this year. Manchester City dominated in a 4-0 win, coming out on top in every major win predictor statistic. The goals came from James McAtee and a Omar Marmoush hat-trick, and when we take a look at the longer-term records, Manchester City are unbeaten in the last 12 matches, winning 9 of these games. Where we focus on the matches just played at St James's Park, Man City are unbeaten in the last 6 encounters, and for Newcastle's last win, we have to go back to January of 2019. Sergio Aguero's first-minute goal was overturned in the second half by Salomon Rondon's equaliser and Matt Ritchie's winning penalty. My prediction for today's game is that Newcastle have struggled of late, and they're hosting a resurgent City side who are fresh off manhandling the reigning champions. City also have the better head-to-head record, and whilst I'm very interested in backing them here, however, when we take a look at the head-to-head record, the 3 draws in the 12-game unbeaten streak for City have occurred at St James's Park. Additionally, momentum between the sides will have broken up during the international break, so I will be disciplined here, and instead of backing Man City outright, I'm going to be laying Newcastle for a full stake to round off today's episode. So there we have it, 4 picks in today's episode, all taking place on Saturday the 22nd. Kicking things off with Burnley versus Chelsea, we're going to back the away side, odds of 1.56, a £25 half stake to return 14. Then we have the 3 o'clock kickoffs, Brighton versus Brentford, I'm taking over 2.5 goals, odds of 1.7, a half stake of £25 to return 17.50. Also at 3 o'clock, Wolves versus Palace, I'm going to be laying the hosts at 1.28, a £50 full stake to return £14.29. And rounding off with the evening kickoff, Newcastle versus Man City, I'm once again going to be laying the home side, odds of 1.34, a £50 full stake to return £17.24. So across the weekend, we're going to be risking £150 to hopefully pick up as much as £63.03. The only question is, will we do so? And to find out, you're going to have to tune into the next episode. But if you have made it to this point in the video, please drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more content. We're aiming to hit 1,000 subscribers by the kickoff of the World Cup, and any support on the channel will be greatly appreciated. And as always, have yourself a lovely day.